I recorded it. I remember the first time it happened. I was in college and my roommate had just fallen asleep. I could hear the steady thump, thump, thump of his breathing. And then suddenly there was a scratching noise followed by heavy footsteps near my bed. I sat up and listened. Thump, 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 scratch, footsteps. There was something definitely under my bed. I moved out of the room that night and slept in my car, but every night for 3 years, no matter where I slept, I would wake up to the same thing, the same exact timing, 3:03 a.m. Every night at 3:03 a.m. I'd hear the footsteps. It got so bad that I couldn't sleep anywhere. Hotels, hospitals. Not even in the woods. Sometimes I wouldn't even make it 10 minutes before I heard the footsteps again, 3:03 a.m. One night I was camping in the Beartooth Wilderness and I recorded it on my phone. I never thought it would actually do anything. But I figured it was worth a shot, so I played it back and sure enough, I could hear the breathing. But what really freaked me out was that underneath the bed, I could hear a whisper. It said, "Stop moving. I'm learning to match your skin." After that, I did whatever I could to get rid of it. I burned my mattress. I ripped up the floorboards in my house and I moved to another city. But the footsteps continued. They were relentless. And one night, about 6 months after I recorded the breathing, I woke up and it wasn't under the bed anymore. It was breathing in sync with me. It was breathing on me. It was breathing from inside of me. The last thing I remember is the feeling of something wet and cold slithering up my ribcage. Now, I don't know if this makes any sense. I am not sure how much of it I actually want to remember because the memory is so vivid, like a broken mirror. All I know is that when I tell this story, people think I'm crazy. They say I should just forget about it, that it's too dark to remember. But I can't let it go. I've been searching for answers ever since that night. I found an old journal of mine from that summer, and I started reading it to see if maybe I could find some kind of explanation. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe I had somehow gotten into some kind of altered state of consciousness. But as I read through the pages, it became clear that this was no dream. There were entries describing strange occurrences from that summer, things I had never written down before, like the day I saw the woman in the laundromat, or the time I forgot my wallet at home. Seemingly ordinary events that all had one thing in common. Each entry contained a small sketch of a pair of feet, like children's drawings, except they weren't mine. They were bigger, wider, with longer toes. I continued reading, desperately searching for some clue to what was happening, why this was happening. Then I came across the entry from July. It was the first time I saw them. It was the first time I heard the breathing. It was the beginning of everything, but instead of answers, I found more questions. Because scrunched up in the corner of that page, smaller than the rest, were two sentences written in a different hand. "When do you plan to let me in?" I stared at those words for a long time. I was scared, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief, knowing that maybe I wasn't alone. Maybe there was something out there trying to help me. So I kept the journal next to my bed and I waited. I waited for the breathing to start again, for the footsteps to come closer. I waited for the moment when it would be no longer beneath the bed, when it would be no longer outside of me. I waited for the moment when it would finally be inside of me. It took almost a year. But then one night my wish was granted. I didn't need to wait for 3:03 a.m. The breathing started at 2:03, then 1:03. And when it finally began to move inside my body, I stopped resisting. Because maybe it wasn't a monster under my bed. Maybe it was a part of me that had always been there. Maybe it was a part of me that had been waiting for me to let it in.